Welcome everybody to a new FZN review. Today I'll have a closer look at an older RTS game that was highly anticipated back in 1997.
Conquest Earth.
Exactly. By the time the game was released by Eidos Interactive, the RTS genre was on its first heyday. 2 years before, Command & Conquer did more or less single-handedly put real-time strategy back in business as one of the most successful genres of them all. Countless imitators and competitors emerged in its wake, among them the likes of Earth 2140, Dominion, Dark Reign or Warwind. The list goes on almost endlessly. So, Conquest Earth then was another hot contestant for the throne of RTS games. It was hyped up with all sorts of unique features like picture-in-picture camera, the ability to take a hands-on control of your vehicles via your keyboards, fuel and ammo consumption for your vehicles, 2 completely different game modes and all sorts of other nonsense. But in the end, it didn't deliver. Instead, it failed miserably. Oh boy, did it fail. But first things first, here's the story in a nutshell. The gaseous Jovians do not feel comfortable on their own homeworld and therefore decide to have a piece of ours. Why exactly they would choose a non-gassy planet like our Earth over a more similar holiday paradise like, say, Neptune or Saturn for example, is not explained. I think it has something to do with revenge for an accidentally and unknowingly committed genocide by some Earthling satellite incident or something. Bottom line is, the aliens attack. To defend their home, the brave people of Earth therefore muster their own forces in the form of so-called bionics, a bunch of android soldiers. You can, of course, play the game with both factions. Doesn't hurt to be the bad guys after all. They even have different user interfaces. While I appreciate the effort, this has a tiny drawback as well. The human UI is pretty much self-explanatory. The alien UI, however, is completely cryptic. Look at those symbols. It takes a while to figure out which button does what, and it's even worse in the strategic interface. I have no idea what half of those things in here do. Visually, it is kind of a nice little addition to the game though. The game resulting from this negligible storyline is in essence more or less a typical RTS game with some added oddities. So now, let's first have a look at some of the positive aspects of the game, because they do exist. First of all, there's the intro cinematic. It is gorgeous. I mean, look at it. If this doesn't get you hyped for a great game, I don't know what else might. There's also a couple of other shorter cinematic cutscenes. All of them are well done, despite being rather pointless. Also, the game looked fantastic for its time. It supported an impressive 65,280 colors. It was in fact so graphically advanced that it included 2 different graphic modes. The regular one, which required an outrageous 32 megabytes of memory, which was a lot at the time, and a more reduced version for weaker machines with only 16 megabytes of RAM. Still, I was running only 16 megabytes myself at the time, and I remember being able to play this in the more advanced mode. The only problem is, I'd rather not. The differences only apply to the environmental graphics, not to units or buildings. In the 16 megabyte mode, everything just looks so much cleaner. The 32 megabyte version looks like a weird spray of paint splashed all over your screen. Somehow, I just don't dig it very much. But still, the overall visual look of the game was astonishing at the time. The same is true for the music, which was taken from the English electro group Eat Static. The catchy tunes fit the game just perfectly and really get your mood going. One could argue that it is kind of a lazy thing to do. Lazy is overall a pretty good word to describe the majority of the game design. On the other hand, though, if they did the music themselves, they'd probably have fucked that up too. So borrowing the stuff from someone who actually knows what they're doing was one of the things they've done right. So there you have it. Great intro, lots of eye candy and some catchy tunes. Give it credit where it's due. I wish I could say the same about the rest of the game, but I can't. So let's have a dive into the bottomless pit of crap that lurks beneath the shiny shell of Conquest Earth. There are two different ways you can play this game. The first way is the so-called action mode. This is the classic campaign. You choose your faction and one of the 3 difficulty levels and then start battling your way through 30 missions for each faction. Unless you play on easy, because then the campaign just ends halfway through. And the reason for that is... the second way was called the strategic mode, and back then I thought this was one of the coolest features of the game. Here you didn't play a linear campaign of some sort, but instead you had a central base of operations. Here you can research new technologies, monitor the world with satellites and produce units. When playing with the humans, every now and again the aliens attack a random major city. You can then transfer your troops and save the city from destruction. Or you can leave it to rot, it's up to you. When you play the Jovians, it's up to you to attack and conquer cities. So far, so good. The problem is that the game doesn't stay on the bright side. To make it quick, it's a thoughtless, utterly flawed agglomeration of bullshit. But just for the fun of it, I will elaborate on the subject a little. The first issue I have with this game is the overall careless and uncompassionate way the pile of junk was botched together in many aspects. Let me exemplify my point with a look at the in-game sounds. Almost everything just sounds the same. It is like looking at a full orchestra and then hearing only the same noise from every single instrument. Just listen to it. This is a Jovian warrior shooting his or her weapon. Not too shabby, a generic laser sound for a generic laser gun. Here comes the bionic purifier soldier. Let's have a look at the mortar infantry. Now lend your ear to the heavy Gorgon tank. Or how about the alien glider? Are you fucking kidding me? The whole game is based around a mere handful of sound effects and the majority of them is just plainly annoying after a while. In addition, you never know what's going on. You can hear combat sounds, but you have no idea whether your entire army is ripped by some alien soldiers or if your purifier soldiers are trying to save the ozone layer. But the lack of effort is not restricted to just sounds, it also affects the looks. Look at this. This is the corpse of a purifier. You might ask yourself, why the hell is it wearing a blue uniform where the living unit clearly has a yellow one? Well, I wondered the same thing until I saw a mortar infantry for the first time. It's the same, in blue. Or here we have a rocket soldier, in red. Take a look at this. This is a spy. He looks exactly the same as a normal gunner. The sound of his weapon is also exactly the same. Just that he is only able to shoot it once every minute. But he makes up for it by shooting across half of the map. What the fuck is that supposed to be? Some kind of a sniper rifle? Then make it sound like one. And look like one, goddammit. It's even worse with the aliens. They have only 2 types of infantry. The warrior and the sulfur warrior that's used to clear the fog of war. Their vehicles aren't much better. There's the so-called pulsar, which comes in a purple anti-infantry and a golden anti-tank edition. Then there's a strange mine dropper, which I never even used, and the flying glider that runs out of ammo faster than Usain Bolt can do the 100 meters. That's it, nothing more. At least the developers were creative in the way the aliens are designed in general. All of their units are morphed out of the basic warriors. They also have all sorts of special abilities. The longer they live, the tougher they get, as you can see by their color. They also have a couple of special evolutions like personal shields, but Conquest Earth wouldn't be what it is if it didn't screw up in that department as well. Look at the invisibility morph. Once you do it, you can't see your own bloody units any longer. Oh look, here it is. That's just stupid. Unfortunately, the whiff of laziness also wafts the mission and level design. There's just not much variety throughout the campaign at all. While they did try to create some special mission objectives in the briefings, which are unfortunately limited to simple text, no videos, no voiceover, no nothing, the actual missions pretty much always result in a basic kill everything that moves scenario.
Completed.
Now, these are all more or less cosmetic complaints. They do not really interfere with the gameplay experience, but as you may have already imagined, the game fucks up in that department as well. Big time. The misery cruise starts with the complete lack of orientation. The user interface does not bother with a minimap. It just isn't there. Don't get me wrong on this one. It was common in RTS games of the time to only unlock the minimap with the construction of a certain building or something. Here it's just missing. Instead you get a weird zoom function once you've used an overpriced satellite, and 3 small additional screens where you can monitor different parts of the battlefield at the same time. It is of some help in missions where you need to protect a certain building, but otherwise those things are a waste of space. If you don't know the map, you just never know where anything is happening. Speaking of things that are missing, let's talk about the resource management. Or rather the lack of it, because it isn't there. The Bionics have no way on Earth to collect additional resources. You start on a budget and that's it. If you run out, you're screwed. Strangely enough, the aliens are allowed to mine resources in some missions, but it doesn't really add to the game whatsoever. You just get used to spending your money very carefully. What you do need, however, is fuel and ammunition for your vehicles. You need to build a helicopter to resupply your heavy armor and special infantry. And to the present day, I have no idea how to rearm the alien glider.
Ammunition collected!
It is kind of a cool idea, but when put into practice, it unfortunately slows the game down by quite a bit and doesn't really add too much to it. But then again, I won't complain about it. They tried out an interesting new feature and it just didn't work out as well as they'd expected, I guess. While I'm on the subject of slowing the game down, let's have a look at the giant pain in the arse that is the fog of war model they implemented here. Instead of the usual black or transparent fog that is simply revealed by moving your units into it, here you have to face the atmosphere itself. The aliens can't see through air while the humans have to fight clouds of sulfur. To get rid of them, you need special units who shoot strange bubbles into the air to reveal the map beneath it. Later on in the game, you can construct buildings which do the same job much more efficiently. It is just tedious work. You have to move your army inch by inch to crawl forward through the clouds, and you can't see shit that's at the edges of it, leaving you vulnerable to sneak attacks.
Run away! Let's go! Run away!
In some missions, it even covers half of your base from the very beginning of the game and you can't see what units and buildings you have. Look at this. Apparently, I just lost a helicopter.
Unit lost!
I didn't even know I had one. I get that they try to incorporate a cool new feature here, but this just is an incredible annoying way of doing things. At least increase the radius of the air freshener, guys, for fuck's sake. Look at how small it is and how long it takes to get rid of the stuff. All this does is slow the game down by a margin. Slow also describes the way some missions end very well. In general, you have to eliminate every single bit of enemy on each map. As the Jovians have units who can disguise themselves as stones or get invisible, looking for the last remaining enemies can be a true pain. Look at it! The mission is cleared out, but I still haven't won because some idiot alien is pretending to be a stone somewhere. Right here, I'm only missing one single enemy unit to finish the mission. Look at the maze I have to cross to get his alien ass. Why can't he simply attack and run to his death like a lemming, like all his buddies did before him? Now, if that wasn't enough already, they also added a horrendous AI to the poop mix. Look at my units! They're being slaughtered piece by piece, but none of them bothers to actually shoot back. What is this? Did the Bionics exclusively recruit pacifists? Are they attempting to argue it out with the aliens? I guess we'll never know. The reason is simple. Your units only automatically shoot back at targets in range. If they are outranged, they die. They won't bother moving a bit to fight back, that's just too much to ask for. The only good thing about this is that your enemies are exactly as dumb as your own units. The list of bad AI behaviors is long. Many of the issues the game has were quite common, and unfortunately Conquest Earth is no exception. Things such as bad pathing, weird grouping behavior, and rather dumb and limited strategic and tactical decisions from your AI enemies. In Conquest Earth, however, it really is over the top. Look at my Jeep! It's completely stuck in here, and it won't just try to find a different way. It keeps running into walls for all eternity, until its black soul will rot in hell. And it is not the only one who can't find the way.
Come on, let's twist again, like we did last summer. Yeah, let's twist again, like we did last year. Do you remember when things were really humming? Yeah, let's twist again, twist the time is here.
The strategic capacity of the AI is also minimal. You could beat pretty much every map by simply starving the enemy out by attacking their generator. The generator, or the power plant for the Bionics, is the main building of the base. Without it, you're fucked. So, if it gets damaged, you should repair it. Repairs are expensive. Remember that thing about not being able to generate money? Well, just find yourself a cliff like this and blow the shit out of the generator until they run out of money. And then, happy face rolling. Oh, by the way, this is the final mission of the Bionics campaign. Yep, I essentially beat the campaign by putting a single tank on a cliff with a view. And on top of it all, they cheat! And I can prove it! Look at how long it takes my SAM sites to destroy an incoming alien glider. And now have a look how fast the AI shoots it down when I play the aliens. Whoa, wait a minute. Did they just shoot it down in one single hit? Here comes the missile, and down it goes. They shot my glider down in one fucking hit. But I'm afraid we're not yet at the end of that nerve-wracking shit trip called Conquest Earth. Oh no, I still have to talk about the icing on the fuck cake. The controls. This is probably the worst handling RTS game I've ever played, and I've played a lot of them. First of all, the controls are extremely unconventional. They're just different from any other game of the type that was common at the time. While you can get used to them somewhat, it is just annoying. All the time I find myself doing things I don't want to do just because I'm used to it from other games. Why couldn't they just adapt the usual controls, especially if they work and theirs clearly don't? At the time, two control modes were common. There was the CNC version, where unit selection and unit controls were done with the left mouse button, while the right button could deselect your units. The other one was the Warcraft version, select with the left, control with right. Plain and simple. In Conquest Earth, you select your units with the right mouse button, give move commands with the right mouse button, and attack by pressing the left one. This alone completely alienates you during the first couple of missions. The same is true for many of the hotkeys. Every other RTS I know allows you to form groups of units by pressing Ctrl plus a number key. Here, you do it by pressing Shift plus a number key. Why do they do this to us? But these are not the main issues I have with the controls. Look at how the targeting works here. I order my units around by clicking the right mouse button. Now I want them to attack the enemy by targeting him and pressing the left one. This is what happens. As soon as I left click, everybody stops dead and shoots. Once. Yeah, that's right. If you want to control the game in a conventional way, you have to move all of your units close enough to the target and then start mashing your left mouse button until your target is dead. I feel like I'm in fucking Diablo 1. The way around this is to use hotkey commands, like the hunt command. This pretty much functions like an attack move in any sensible game and kind of solves the issue. It is also absolutely mandatory for the Harrier fighter jet, which is completely uncontrollable with manual commands. But this wouldn't be Conquest Earth if there weren't any drawbacks. Look at the range of my units when I use the hunt command. It's pathetic. Look at these moronic rocket soldiers. I can perfectly well shoot the generator from this position using manual controls. As soon as I apply the hunt command, the dumbasses start moving. It's completely ridiculous with the Hydra rocket launcher. This is its attack range using the hunt command. Now compare that to the actual range the thing has when you fire it manually. That is at least 5 times the range. Why can't it use that with the special commands? You can also manually control your vehicles with the arrow keys on your keyboard while using the mouse to target and fire the weapons. It is kind of a cool feature, but it only works for single units. Well, usually you only control a single vehicle at a time, because doing it manually is just much more effective than trusting the shitty pathing of just right-click commands. Look at this! With a little care, a single jeep can wipe out an entire alien force. All in all, these controls are just awful. In combination with the lack of orientation, it is just unbearably frustrating to play the game in certain situations. Well, that's that then. Conquest Earth. Great graphics, great music, great intro. And all of that just smashed by common lack of detail, miserable gameplay mechanics, user-unfriendly navigation and orientation, lousy AI, and controls straight from the depths of hell. The only people I can recommend this piece of crap to are game developers who can take a very close look at how not to do it. For everybody else, I think I've clearly established that Conquest Earth is an abysmal heap of junk, and you should avoid it. That leaves only one question left to be answered. Why on earth do I still enjoy playing it from time to time? FZN out.